My guest this morning is Brother, Dr. Professor Jà Hon Vance, Executive Vice President of Teaching and Learning. Today, he is highly praised and respected for his savvy work with academic testing, teacher education training programs, recruitment, educating and graduating African American male students in higher education, retention, as well as redesigning developmental educational writing programs. When Professor Vance is not working with students and conducting instructional training sessions for educators, he can be found presenting workshops for H.O.P.E, Academy Leadership Institute. Those letters spelled out, of course, HOPE. Innovative Educators, JV Educational Annual Males of Color Retention Conference, National Association for Developmental Education, Noel-Levitz National Conference on Student Recruitment, Marketing, and Retention, the National HBCU Faculty of Development Symposium Conference, the National Youth at Risk Conference Oxford Roundtable, and the Quest Minority Male Annual Conference. Recently, Professor Vance used a $0 budget to operate a successful structural learning community by the name of Quest that he designed and developed specifically for African American males to earn an Associate of Arts degree in 1 year, while producing more than $15.5 million in FTEs, as well as secured a $2.7 million grant for the U.S. Department of Education in 2011. To add to his academic leadership credit, Professor Vance made history and changed the educational teaching and learning platform by producing 11 consecutive classes of graduates from 2009 to 2020 at one of Maryland's urban community college, using his one-year degree model concept, the Quest. In addition, his innovative writing concept, which employs the use of the Vance-Brooks writing model, provided successful outcomes over a 4-year period that helped students matriculate from developmental educational writing courses to credit-level writing courses with the needed skills to advance in higher education. Lastly, Professor Vance's philosophy for education is simple. And this is one of the things we're definitely going to talk about and what gravitated me toward him before I even knew we were Alpha Brothers. All persons are capable of learning, but the educator must be creative and skilled to reach, to teach, and to meet the various academic needs. But most importantly, the educator must act as the change agent that constantly works to foster continual awareness in every soul. Ladies and gentlemen, listening to The Reading Circle with Marc Medley, welcome to these microphones, none other than Dr. Jà Hon Vance. Dr. Vance, good morning.
Good morning, Brother Medley. How are you on this great Saturday?
I told you, man, when I saw that phone light up, I got even better.
Oh, stop. I was having nightmares. I was so excited. I was telling people, I said, listen, I haven't been on the air in so long. I said, but this is a good thing. I said, because we're going to talk about some empowerment, shaping and helping, and really dealing with what's needed, helping our family, the Black community. Our family needs some love. They need some support. They need some modelization. They just need some people they can reach out and touch and lean on a shoulder. And we haven't seen that or experienced that in quite some time. So when we met a year ago, then we reconnected earlier this year, and we exchanged and talked, and you extended the opportunity. I said, wow, this is a platform that I have to be there. I will be on time. So when you gave me the appointed time, I made sure that all clocks were synchronized by Alpha Fraternity Incorporated to show up and to be on time. So, Brother Bentley, I'm just excited and indeed honored to be here. And so I was just, as you were reading the bio, I said, wow, who was he talking about? Because that couldn't be me. Remember, that guy has to be Brother Medley or another Alpha, but it couldn't be me.
No, it is you. And I tell you, a lot of times people will say, no, I don't want you to read the whole thing. No, I'm reading the whole thing because I need folks to know it's possible. I need folks to know if it can happen for Dr. Vance, it can happen for me. So I'm always hoping that these bios will be an inspiration to somebody to say, you know what, I thought I couldn't do it, but after listening to that, maybe I'm going to give it a shot. And then after talking or listening to what we're talking about this morning, I really hope that will inspire some folks as well also. Because as I said, that last line in your bio is what I connected with right off the bat. Because Dr. Vance and I met last summer. I was in a workshop that he was leading last summer. And then my supervisor, Cicely Warren, my assistant superintendent, she invited me to be a part of another workshop he was leading this year, and had an absolute blast for the 2 or 3 days it was that we were together. And then we realized that we were fraternity brothers. As a matter of fact, one of our guest speakers at this year's conference was our immediate past president, Mark Tillman.
Yeah.
And so we had an alpha good time. And at that point, I said, I got to have Dr. Vance on the show. I got to have Brother Vance on the show. But this last line, he says, all persons are capable of learning, but the educator must be creative and skilled to reach, to teach, and to meet the various academic needs. But most importantly, the educator must act as the change agent that constantly works to foster continual awareness in every soul. Now, throughout the conferences, various testimonials from students came out in terms of, had it not been for Dr. Vance, I would not be here. And if you heard him talking about the associate's degree program and so forth and so on, in education, and this is largely what we're going to talk about, is there, and particularly for people of black and brown skin, particularly for African American males. Many times before we even get to the door, we're written off. Yeah. And even sometimes when we're in the door, we're still written off.
Yeah.
So when folks now come across someone like my good brother, Dr. Vance, that's saying, you know what, you can do this. I don't care what your history is, your background is. I don't care how you grew up. I don't care if mom and dad was together or not. I don't care if you were on drugs. I don't care if you drank. I don't care what you did. You can do this. They come across somebody like Dr. Vance, that's like water to a sponge, and it's received that way. So I'll tell you what, Brother Vance, let's go back to where did this kind of start? How did you get into the field? I mean, and your philosophy, so forth and so on. I'm gonna turn the mic off and let you go.
Wow. Well, listen, I had great models. And when I say great models, mom and dad, mom taught science, dad taught math and English. And then I have to give great credit to the Black church. Our grandfather worked in the church, he pastored, and I saw individuals leading, teaching, guiding, mentoring, coaching daily. So whether it was helping a person with groceries, whether it was shoveling the snow in the wintertime, whether it was helping someone to water their garden or to just provide assistance, I saw that continuously. Then as I entered into school, I saw how a number of my colleagues who did not excel immediately, and it wasn't because they could not do the work, it was because of the role and the direction from the facilitator, the teacher. Many folk decided that, I'm not going to put the extra in because of this group. Or if you don't get it the way that I have it, you're written off. And when I looked at that, I said, wow, this is really crazy because people can really learn and they can really grow, but the person in front of them is stopping and hindering growth. So I decided very early I was going to be everything that I saw that teachers were not to me and to others. I wanted to make sure that I would be that light. I would be that clear window, that smooth pathway so that students could get the information, enjoy learning, and know that they are important. And although they may learn a different way, I can adjust what I'm doing and let them know that your way is still a good way and you can reach your goals. So kind of like Fannie Lou Hamer, she said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. So when I saw that year after year, even when I entered into college, I saw it. I was like, this is really crazy because men of color, students of color were being rejected because of skin tone. And so I said, no, I really have to be the best educator possible to make sure I make a real impact, I want folk to graduate. I want folk to get the skills. I want folk to live their better life in society by having a quality education and knowing that it's possible. So I took notes, Mark, along the way. I took notes on all the bad teachers. And I took notes on all the things they did wrong and all the things they said horrible to students. And so those became my navigation tools and my notes of inspiration to say, this is what you would never do. And this is what you will do. So you will never tell a student they can't make it. You will never tell a student that you ought to drop out, that college is not for you. And Brother Medley, college is for everyone. The difference is we need to determine if it's a tech school, a liberal arts school, or a research one school. We need to understand how to marry the student's skill with the institutional mission and vision and programming that's available. So the 4-year degree on the front end may not be the target, but securing that certificate, which is a training tool and a credential to get that young man or that young lady to matriculate and to be able to take care of themselves. That's what's needed. So we have to really make sure we shape and that we marry the student with the institution. Because if you want to be a barber, why are we sending you to a research one institution?
Absolutely right.
When his skill mark is cutting hair. Now, we send him to barber school, and he receives that skill and that certificate and that training. But then what we also come back and do, you have that barber license. Now let's just go over and get the certificate on the front end from the community college in business. So as your revenue, legalized revenue, come through the front door, you're paying taxes, you're saving, and you're learning how to invest in yourself and to expand what you do. So although you may be leasing a barber seat today, but next month you can purchase a building and own the barber seat, and then you lease out the next 7 seats to have that continuous revenue. So that's what motivated me. And I just believe, Mark, that everyone is capable of learning. It's just that we have to find the educator with the needed skill and the vision to understand that it's not about you as the educator, it's about the student. So whether that student is tactile learner, a vision learner, one who learns by movement, one by hearing, even in groups, then we have to adapt the change to make sure that we are that multifaceted resource for the student. And it's not about your credentials, how many degrees you can tout, how many titles. It's about the outcome of taking student A from A to Z, but more importantly, meeting them where they are and being that transformational passport to take them where they need to be. That's what we need to do. And then, Brother Medley, if I hear another educator get up and tout, my course is rigorous and students just don't have the skills, Brother Medley, that is buffoonery, that is foolishness, and we should take them out to the academic field and we should torture them because rigor means this, Brother Medley. I'm serious. You know, this is what rigor says. I'm going to take Brother Medley, and what I'm going to do for my rigor in my course, I am going to provide Brother Medley with the foundational tools and skills and resources, A, to be successful. B, I'm going to provide avenues, plural, where he has multiple opportunities to engage in learning and exploring the materials. Next, here is rigor. Once he has mastered that, I will constantly expose Brother Medley to new information daily while building upon what was taught previously so that he can grow continuously. That's rigor. If you're providing a course and no one can get through, then why are you there?
Correct.
You are stealing taxpayers' money, and you know what? Your pension should be taken, your Social Security should be taken, and you should go and work in the backyard by yourself.
I know that's right. And you said so much in that answer to unpack. I was trying to keep up with the things I wanted to touch on as I responded. But one of them that I cringe at when I hear the words, and I tell teachers and guidance counselors all of this all the time in terms of, I better not ever hear the words that you've told or a student coming to me saying that you told them they were not college material. Because Dr. Vance, let me tell you something. When I find that out, I will go after tenure for those words. In terms of if a child ever came to me and said that a guidance counselor or a teacher told them they were not college material, I take big issue with that. Now, if they choose not to go, that's one thing, but not to be told, but to be told that. Because as you were talking, there are so many people that got off of the track to even think about going to college because somebody said those words to them. So that was one thing. Another thing that you were talking about in terms of with teaching, and as God would have it, for those that like to say the universe, for those that would say whatever. But on Thursday, I did a session with our teachers in terms of student experience. And we did a little exercise in terms of, okay, if you were a student, what would be like the ideal experience for you in the classroom? And to your point of, unfortunately, many of us as educators, we think it's all about us and not about the students. I still had some students that was responding on that Jamboard from the teacher experience. No matter how many times we had to say, no, we want you to write from the student experience. They still kept coming from the lens of the teacher experience. And me and the facilitator, we had to keep on really kind of explaining what we were trying to get them to. But unfortunately, in our profession, there are too many of us that think it's about us and not about the student. And that's where we missed the mark, because that all students can learn is not just some little cute tagline. They can learn if we deliver in a way that they process. And it's up to us to figure out what is the way that child processes. Now, does it take a little bit of more work? Yes, it does. Does it mean you can't do the cookie cutter lesson plan? Yes, it does. But at the same time, if we truly believe all children can learn, then we will do what we need to do, as you just described. I mean, Brother Vance, I have had teachers, as you said, that beat their chest to say that their entire class failed. All of my students failed this semester. And, Miss Warren, the assistant superintendent and I looked at her like she had three heads. Like, that's not on them, that's on you.
Right. But here's the thing. For a person to enter the vocational field of teaching and learning, and to have the courage and the audacity to utter publicly that your students failed with pride, that shows a great disconnect. Because if the student is coming daily, and if the student is there, I tell folks, I don't care if the initial mission for coming was for that 11:30 hour lunch. It was a mission. Now that he or she is there, what I'm going to do is create an environment that is so stimulating and inviting that Paul's mission was that lunch at 11:30. But coming to the literature course, he's going to find out, he's going to be ready to engage in dialogue, which is going to help to prepare him. But at the same time, while we're dialoguing, I'm still teaching. And he doesn't know it.
Correct.
But he's becoming involved, and I'm allowing him first to share his literary canon of the stories that he likes, and some of the stories that he has written, and some of the characters he has played, and some of the narratives that he has changed. And so what we have to do, as you said, we really have to understand how they learn. But we have to become some great actors when presenting, because without that engagement, it's a disconnect.
Correct.
And it's not about how good you look, where you went to school. I'm excited we were able to enter into some of these institutions where we were not welcome, and we've done exceptionally well. Okay, that's great. Well, the real outcome of the institution and that degree program is that you're able to go to a community, not where the learners are all above grade level and they're soaring, but you're able to take a group of students that society, the media, the politicians have skillfully written off and said, at best, Brother Medley, if they come to your school, they might matriculate. And you're saying, I'm so happy you sent them, because we have a delegation of refined intellectual educators who are transformational teachers, and what they're going to do, they've already transformed their classrooms, They are on task. They're meeting them at the door with that energy, and they're so excited. And they're celebrating the student by using the praise mechanism. And as I said earlier this year, when we praise students, you can do what? Move them to a different level. So praise them, then remove the P from praise, and now you can raise them. Praise them for showing up on time. Praise them for participating. And when you do that, and then you begin to learn your student's name and you engage them there, they have an expectation that when I get to Brother Medley's class, if nothing else, he's going to know me and call me by my name. That means so much to a student versus, well, what's your name again? Oh, well, whatever. No, engage.
That's right.
Involve, connect. And even when a student may respond and the answer may not be correct, this is what we do. The first mechanism is to praise. Hey, Mr. Smith, thank you so much for sharing. And you know what? I really like the response that you gave. And you know what? Let's look at this. Your response was a thorough response. But if we will, Mr. Smith, the two of us, let's examine the question again. And let's look at this question. Now, how can we address the question directly? Then after we address the question directly, let's take what you shared previously and let's add to it. See, these are things that we can do and we should be doing. Now what happens, the student says, you know what? In this classroom, I have a voice, I have a presence, I am here, and I am free. Even if I err, I am free because I would be nurtured. I would be, clothed with support from the facilitator. So in this room, this teaching experiment, this science lab, in this lab of learning, I have the opportunity to learn by error and not be made fun of or overlooked. And
Absolutely.
This is what our teachers have to do, yes.
Because, I don't know, listening audience, I don't know if you picked up on what Dr. Vance just said and how he said it. Because the flip side of that, or another way to have said exactly what he said is, sir, I'm surprised at you. You didn't know that? I expected more out of you, sir.
Right.
Totally different. It meant the same thing, but the way it would have made that student feel, two different avenues, and the response and the effort now that the student would put in. To the way Dr. Vance just said it, the student couldn't help but say, you know what, I'm going to give a shot at this again, versus I expect more out of you, sir. These are the type of things that we're talking about, and exactly what I was saying. This is what connected me to Dr. Vance prior to even me knowing that we were Alpha Brothers. All right. Now, we immediately, once we learned we were fraternity brothers, are connected. But it was this philosophy and his sharing of these type of techniques and strategies. And it's not just a matter of technique and strategy. It has to come from the heart. Yeah. Dr. Vance, from this, every Saturday morning, I read from two books. One is by Jà Hon Vance. It's called their Daily Devotionals Until Today. And the other one is by Reverend Run from Run DMC. And in his book this morning, what I read, and I thought about you as I read it, and I knew I was going to read it again when we were on the air. But he says, look for the best in everyone. People around you are as valuable as you think they are. When you have a critical spirit toward your spouse, children, or helpers, they become more of what you say they are. Learn to encourage others, and they will perform better for you. Look for the best in everyone, and you will find it. That's what Dr. Vance was just saying, because what he was talking about just now doesn't only work in the classroom, it'll work at home.
Yes, it will. But let's see, Brother Medley, in order to find the best, you got to find the best in yourself first.
Correct.
So you have to first acknowledge that. And this is the unique part. I tell my students, I said, I love what I do. I love helping people. But let me share this. Much of what you are encountering today, some of your same experiences I've lived through. And some of the questions you had, I had too. And some of the mistakes you made on an assignment, so did I. But I learned how to move beyond that to correct it. And so we have to be realistic and realist, and we have to share with individuals. and share with the students that I earned an A on every assignment. I didn't have all the resources right away on the front end. I didn't make mistakes through the process. Being transparent with our students. You didn't get all A's. No, I didn't. I made some mistakes. Now the final grade ended up as an A, but I made some mistakes. And so there are times when I had to ask the question over and over. There are times for certain subjects I had to put more time in. I had to come early and stay late. I had to let the teacher know that I just didn't understand the first time you said it. And it was okay. And so it was okay to go and ask. And here's a big one, Brother Medley. For students of color, it is okay to ask for help. And it's okay to ask a question. The stupid question is the one that is not open.
Correct.
It's not addressed. It's not voiced. And when facilitators and teachers and administrators provide a platform or an environment where you don't talk, it's all about me, no. So for those people, I can tell you this, Brother Medley, hurt people, hurt folk.
Absolutely.
Mean people, I mean the nice people, and educators who don't love themselves, they are unable to love students.
Absolutely.
And we have to realize that we have some Voltron educators on the platform, and they need to go to planet Mars and fight a battle, but not in the state of New Jersey, California, Michigan, Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, and the other 50 remaining states. They are not equipped because they don't have that passion.
Absolutely.
And you need passion to teach.
That's correct.
I'm in the market, Brother Medley, and I see a young man and his pants may be sagging, and I'm critically analyzing the situation, but more importantly, I'm trying to find a way to create a conversation so that I can impart some information. And sometimes I may look at his apparel. I'll say, excuse me, those are some really nice sneakers. And I know they're Yeezys, but I'm saying,
right.
These Yeezys. I'm like, wow. And he'll tell you how much they cost. I said, I'm just a little educator. I work at the college, and the money that you spend on those, I said, I have a question for you. Yeah, you a professor? Yes, sir. Oh, wow. But may I ask you a question? I said, sure. Do you have Cash App on your phone? Yes. I said, no, I don't want any money from you. I said, did you know the money that you spent on those Yeezys, you could have gone on Cash App and you could have bought stock starting at $1.
I know that's
while
right.
you spending time walking through the community and talking with your family and friends, you are making money every day. And they'll look at me, are you serious? I said, click on your Cash App. See a little wiggly line right there? You can actually start buying as low as $1. So I find a way to talk to them. But what I did, I empowered, I connected, I engaged, I educated. And while you're talking with the young men, you'll find that slowly they become alert and in tune that they'll start adjusting the belt.
Right.
They'll start pulling up their pants, and they will begin to utilize the best form of communication that they know. And they will begin to enunciate and put the D's and the T's, and they will really feel welcome and good. So what I do is every environment is a learning environment, a teaching environment. So because I'm in love with me, I can be in love with my profession of teaching and learning. I can be in love with making sure that I am that foundational platform that the students stand on to rest on to reach their goal. What does a footstool do? It helps you to reach your goal. And that's what educators have to do. We have to become that footstool to help our students reach their goal. But we can't be a sturdy, doable footstool when you're mean, cantankerous, evil. You haven't planned. You don't have a vision. You don't even like your job. So we need to find ways first to do shock therapy treatment to get rid of all those bad teachers and then get the good ones together But we have to realize that our students can do any and everything except fail when they have that great nurturing support. And we should be that 21st century navigation system to ensure turn left here, study here, review this. And then when you can't pronounce the word again, go to your cell phone and type in dictionary.com and put in the word OFTEN. And it's not pronounced often, it's just pronounced often.
No, that's absolutely right. Yeah, and again, listening, guys, if you've just, I honestly hope you've been with me at 6, but really hope you've been with me since 7, because my guest this morning is Dr. Jà Hon Vance, and this is a timely conversation, seeing that we're coming to the end of the school year, and we're preparing now, in the summer for the beginning of another school year in September. So this is a timely conversation, and it's not just for educators, because a lot of what we're talking about will certainly work just in the home or in relationships. If you heard Dr. Vance talk just now about the young man, the example he gave with the sagging pants. Once again, I'm going to help you understand the difference between, man, get them pants up. Don't you know any better than that? There's that a total difference in the approach. Because, see, I'm big into aviation. I love flight. I love aviation. I fly on flight simulators all the time. And I'm telling you, it's all in the approach in terms of whether you have a good and successful landing or not. A bad approach, you will crash. A good approach, you will land and land smoothly. So what we're talking about here is you're getting to the same objective. It's the approach that makes the difference and the feedback. And one of the things you were talking about teaching, because teaching, folks, if you're considering being a teacher, please listen to what Dr. Vance and I are saying. Teaching really is about passion. It's not just about it's easy to do. You get your summers off, all these holidays, you get off at 3 o'clock. It's not about that. And it's not about, because one of the things, just like that, you're not college material irks the daylights out of me. The other thing that irks the daylights out of me was folks, if they get laid off from their jobs, or if they're going to, I got laid off. Well, if I can't find anything, I'll just teach. It's like, what? Do you say, if I can't find anything, I'll be a doctor? If I can't find anything else, I'll be a lawyer? If I can't find anything else, I'll be a pilot. You don't hear that, but in the teaching industry, we do hear that a lot. Well, if I can't do anything else, I'll teach. No. Teaching is not a profession that you can just do. The passion has to be there. And Jà Hon just said something that was critical in terms of, if you don't like yourself and you're mean-spirited, that will now carry over into your classroom. There are two groups, and I'm not saying the middle group doesn't know this, but there are two groups that know sincerity: children and senior citizens.
Yeah.
Those two groups, more so than any other groups, know when you're sincere. And they know whenever you faking the funk, and they know whenever you just doing to be doing and going through the motions. They feel that. Children sense that. When I was in the classroom, I got away with murder. They never told the principal on me. I got away with murder because they knew I loved them. They knew whatever. And that acting piece, absolutely. I would throw chalk up against the board and it would explode, and they'd say, "Oh, Mr. Medley, mad." And like, I wouldn't be mad, but they didn't know that. But but they would never. Now, the teacher next door that tried to do the same thing, they'd run straight to the principal and tell on them. But they knew I loved them, and they knew whatever I was doing for them was because I truly cared and loved them. And there was something else you said earlier, Dr. Vance, when you were giving that example about the barber. If I don't know, again, this was earlier in an interview, if you were listening to him when he said about, okay, you get your barber certificate. But there was a second piece to that, which was, okay, go get your associate so you understand the business. That means there was a bigger vision than just being the barber. You like you said, you might start with renting the shop, but now you're looking at owning a building, and you need to know how to do that. See, that's taking it a step further with folks that many people don't do.
Well, see, and what happens, Brother Medley, and to our audience, what we have to realize is this: success comes in steps. Growth is a step process. And what we have to realize is this: that Barbara was once not a Barbara. So after obtaining the license and that certificate, that was a growth process. But growth doesn't end. Just like we say in education, and it's more than a saying, learning is a lifelong process.
Correct.
And it really is. You know, we're constantly learning. So what we have to do is create the culture where the folk that we are training the men and women, the young men and young ladies that we're training, that they fall into the art of recognizing that learning is a continuous process. You go to Best Buy today versus when you and I grew up, you went to your local Sears and Roebuck and you purchased a television. You had those antennas. Today, when you buy a smart TV, it's a little bit more to just plugging it up. First of all, you have to be able to read those directions to connect all of that technology to what needs to be in place in order for it to function appropriately. So that's that critical thinking. And that's being able to connect, but more importantly, follow through on what you read to understand what to do. That's a growth process. It's a learning process. So we're still doing that. Then also, too, what we have to do is this. Our first institution, because you mentioned something earlier, is the home. And so if we have mom, dad, grandma, aunt, uncle who are nurturing many of our children today, and I celebrate you all because you're doing an awesome job, because you could have said no. But Brother Medley, for those who are doing that in the home, we have to become the architects and the engineers of education. So when grandma, or uncle, or mom and dad happens to be in the kitchen and she's going to prepare a meal and she goes to the cabinet and she retrieves those pots and pans, all mom has to do is begin to use the word tools and supplies and begin to demonstrate how she get her tools and supplies, and then she gathered the ingredients and she's walking them through a process, which is still science, that's language, vocabulary, critical thinking, and there's a mathematical computation that she's going to use because she's going to boil the eggs for a certain amount of time. She's going to beat and blend for a certain amount of time, and there's a process in doing this. So in integrating that vocabulary and that structure, what our home is doing, we're teaching constantly because we're always doing. So that's the unique part that we talked about earlier with helping our children. So it starts in the home. So we create that learning environment. And so what happens, now the child has a sense of readiness for learning because now the child understands that, guess what? There is indeed a structural process that I have to facilitate to get to the next level. I have to do this. And this is a part of that. And having a part of it, it can be fun. And Brother Medley, I like when you said you threw the chalk against the wall, because what the students didn't know contextually, you were getting and establishing an effect, but a dramatic effect. And that dramatic effect caused the students to listen and to be engaged even the more, because you were preparing them for something phenomenal. So you knew that what you were about to share was going to be a little bit more challenging than the previous. So you have to break that ice to get their attention.
Correct.
To get them to continue to be engaged, because they didn't know whether you was going to throw another piece of chalk, jump on the desk, kick up for a chair.
That's right. And I might do all of the above. That's right.
But you were like, this man crazy.
That's
I'm
right.
getting information. And so, but even in your, what we would say, oxymoron, structured but non-structured setting, you created an engagement, you connected, they saw the vision, and they realized that, wow, I need to pay attention, because if I'm not, I'm going to miss something. But what they experienced, it was, I call it the academic learning shock.
Right.
And you gave them that academic learning shock that caused them to, you know what, if nothing else, I would be on time for this man's class, because I know he's going to do something rambunctious. And I just can't believe it. This teacher is doing this, but I'm learning. And at the end of the class, end of the year, they'll come back to you and say, "Wow, I didn't know you tricked us."
That's right.
You know, all that acting you were doing we were learning, but those were teachable learning engagement moments. And they were saying, you did that, but on the front end, we didn't realize you were connecting at the chapters 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And so those examples you knew would not engage with us, would not resonate with us. So you created your own examples that we could identify with.
Absolutely. Man, I taught 8th grade language arts, and the last book I would do, matter of fact, a little bit before this time of year, around the March, April time, the last book I would do with them was The Scarlet Letter. And people would look at me like, wait, that's a high school book. Those kids can't read. They can't. Man, when we broke The Scarlet Letter down to that was a baby mama drama, I couldn't take that book out of their eyes. And then I had all of them cut out and design the letter A, and they had to walk around the building all day with that letter A pinned to their shirt or their blouse. And now folks started questioning, what's that A? What's that A all about? I'm reading this book called The Scarlet Letter, and this lady had to wear this A. So, I mean, when they started getting into Dimsdale and so forth and so on, and they figured, because it was a little heavy lifting in terms of some of the vocabulary and the phrasing. But once it clicked that was a baby mama drama, Dr. Vance, they couldn't put the book down.
But see, what did you do? You broke down, strike that. You destroyed all academic barriers. You did I call it the 21st century model college. What you did, you went to where they were, and you brought the experience from their cultural neighborhood, family, community to them, but then you integrated in a creative, savvy manner the academic vocation and definitions and terminology so that it was an easy transition. So in essence, what we do, we have to be multilingual.
Correct.
In the teaching and learning process. So you were so skilled in doing that they were like, oh, wow. And then they could identify, because see, some of them were byproducts of that. Some of them were directly impacted by that. Some of them had family members, and they witnessed that situation daily in the morning, afternoon, the weekend. And, in some communities, if there's a baby shower or family get together, somebody's coming in with that same dramatic drama that they were reading about. So they couldn't wait to come to class. And I know that in their coming to class to share, sometimes you have to shift the conversation, because sometimes in the sharing, it could have been a little bit too much, but they felt comfortable, but they knew they had a safe haven with you. So whatever they voiced, they were not made to feel bad or look poor. And you establish a culture of shared governance in the learning process. And this is where these crazy people who call themselves teachers, who perpetrated to get a license, and they keep their certification, they have no culture of respect, and they have no culture of shared governance learning, because you and I both know, as much as you pour into that class of students, every semester, every year, you walk away with a new book of notes, and now next year, when I see this student, I'll be able to add this to the equation, because I understand they're going to need this, this, and this. So my savvy, wonderful, well-written lesson plan, it's nice for the district and for the accrediting body, but to connect and to get the student to say, you know what, not only can I learn this, but I can share this, and I can defend it, and I can agree and disagree, and I can tell, Mr. Medley, this is why I disagree with that. Mr. Medley, you know what, that's a good example. My cousin acts the same way. 1 minute she's happy, 1 minute she's sad, 1 minute she's positive, next minute she's depressed. She's around character. Brother Medley, my uncle, he's always mean. He's a dark character. You got that right.
That's right.
We're able to share those examples. And then what happens is this. I have to say this, Brother Medley. Mom, dad, aunts and uncles, when was the last time before you took your child to school, when was the last time you visited the school?
Right.
And you interviewed the teaching staff and the administrators? I'm going to tell you where I'm going,
Absolutely.
Brother Medley. See, you have to know, first of all, how does Brother Medley Jr. learn?
Right.
If he is a visionary learner and you put him in a classroom where the teacher uses no visuals and he or she lectures all day,
That's right.
then guess what? It's not that the child is special ed.
That's
It's
right.
that the child can't learn. The facilitator stayed in lock mode.
Correct.
I call it lock mode. This is what's comfortable. I'm going to read these little sticky notes, and that's it. And if you don't get it off me talking, then the peace be with you. Well, mom and dad and our guardians have to go to the school, understand what's your vision of and mission, Brother Medley, for teaching, and how do you teach language arts?
Correct.
What is the process that you do there? Because here's the other part. When parents do that, then they're able to put their children in the appropriate school. Then they're able to go class by class and say, no, Miss Jemison, she is really sharp and she's great. But the way that she facilitates does not marry nor address how my child learns. So therefore, it's a disservice to put my child in that classroom because my child will not advance. And so we have to have the appropriate tools. If you're going to fight a battle, you don't go in an open field and be seen. If you're going to beat up the enemy, you're going to put some camouflage on.
That's
you
right.
need the appropriate tools to win both the battle and the war. So in the learning battle and war, we have to give our students what they need. So moms, dads, if you're out there, you need to interview your teaching staff, the administration, and you need to understand if it marries how your child learns. And if not, then you need to put your child in a class where your child can really soar. Now, once that child becomes independent in the learning process, then we can do what we call the rigor. We can expose the child to a different type of teaching and learning environment. But we have to build foundation so that the child can really get it. And we don't do that. Now, that's a disconnect. And then for the educator, you need to survey your class. And Brother Medley, they need to do a SWOT analysis. What's the strength of the class? What's the weakness of the class? What are some opportunities that the class can take? And more importantly, what are the threats in this class that can cause the students not to master the material so they won't matriculate to the next course? Well, once that person gathers that data, he or she needs to say, now, this is what I have to do actively, daily, weekly, to keep the students engaged, and more importantly, to establish the principles of learning and establish how to teach to reach them, but establish being the best that I can be. And that means, Brother Medley, with the opportunity, you and I do it yearly. We are constantly involved in educational training.
Correct.
We're constantly learning. Yes, we teach, but guess what? Don't you know the teacher, a great teacher, needs a teacher to teach them
Correct.
how to reteach to teach again.
No, and you're absolutely right. Even talking to you this morning is doing that for me. Is I'm thinking the wheels are turning as a principal. You're absolutely right. And any educator worth his or her salt, they are always in that frame of mind of trying to learn how to improve their game. Now, something that you said there earlier about, matter of fact, before I even get there, parents don't realize how much power they have, and what you were just discussing in terms of, let me understand how that teacher teaches. But most parents don't do that. They really don't. And many think they can't. Many are intimidated by the educational institutions, so they feel like they don't have a voice. But parents really don't realize how much power they have, and exactly what Brother Vance just described in terms of being able to do that. Parents, yes, you do have the ability to go in and, for the most part, select who is going to teach your child. There was something else you said earlier in terms of when the student doesn't understand something, of asking the teacher. At my particular school, at my school that I lead, it is an interview process to get into the school. One of the questions in our interview is, because we break it out two ways, the guidance counselor interviews the parent, I interview the student. And one of the questions that I have for the student is, If you're in class and you don't understand your homework or your in-class assignment, what do you do? And it's always interesting to see, finally the kid will get to, I'll ask the teacher. So I'm like, okay, good, great answer. That's exactly right. I said, now I'm going to ask you this. You asked the teacher and you still didn't get it. What do you do then? Now they really look at me like, so, and then every now and again, I'll get one to say, ask the teacher again. But most of them at that point will go off to ask my mom, ask my classmate, ask my, and I said, okay, you've asked the teacher the second time. You still didn't get it. What do you do now? And I have yet to get the kid ask the teacher the third time. And when I finally go back into the summation with them, I always say, let me tell you why I asked you that question. Because I don't care if you have to ask that teacher 50 times. That teacher has to take that question and come up with 50 different ways to help you get it, because that's what we're getting paid to do. We're the paid professionals. That's what we're getting paid to do, is to help you understand whatever it is that we're trying to pull out of you. So if you have to ask, even if it's the 15th time, and you say, you know what, Mr. Medley, I know you've told me this 15 different ways, but I still don't get it. Now this is where I want you to connect the dots in terms of what Brother Vance was saying about approach. Now, I could say, I done said this 15 times. What about this you ain't getting? What's wrong with you? Do you have a learning disability? Yada, 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 yada. I could do that. That would shut that child right down. Or, as you heard Brother Vance say earlier in the interview, in terms of the approach of, wow, you know what? We've broken that down 15 different ways. Let's see if we can get a 16th. It's all in approach. And it makes the difference between the relationships. And where I'm going with this is, I cannot tell you within last year and this year, and I know Dr. Vance don't do this to be bragging on himself, but it's trying to help other educators understand the impact that we have on students' lives. The testimonials of various students who came across Dr. Vance's path. And because they came across his path, their lives was transformed. As we get down to the close, we have about 10 or 15 minutes left, Dr. Vance. Let's talk a little bit about that in terms of, students who have come back to you saying, had it not been for you or what you said or what you did. Because I know some of the examples of you going out buying clothes and things of that nature. Talk a little bit about that.
Brother Medley, I'm just so excited. I said, we need a part 2 of this.
I know that's right. And we're going to do it, too. We are going to have a part 2. I'm going to have you back.
I said, we got to have a part 2. One has to be for parents, and then we need one teachers to fall in love with teaching, because some of the teachers have divorced teaching, so that's why they got some issues. But to address your question, sometimes when you look at our students, you see them, and you see that they need that support, and you do that. And students come back, Brother Medley, and they say, thank you. And I saw that my guys wanted something. And the fields that they selected, so a couple of gentlemen who had been incarcerated 2 or 3 times, had been on drugs. All of those guys earned the AA degree in 1 year. But they wanted to be doctors or counselors or engineers. So, Brother Medley, I had to do something. If you want to be an engineer, you made a mistake. I said, what we're going to do is this. We're going to clean up the mistakes. You're going to earn as many academic honors and awards as possible. And you get those. So when you interview, that's the old person. Now you're the new person. And those guys have come back. If you saw The Wire, for those who are listening, the Barksdale family, I've had a chance to work with some of the Barksdales, and they graduated, Brother Medley. And these were guys who, like I said, been in jail, been on drugs, but they were able to graduate. And it's wonderful when they call you back and says, wow, because of the time you spent, the commitment, the dedication. Not only did I get the AA degree, but I have the master's degree. I'm a certified licensed counselor. To get the young man from New York to come down and to get in school and to have a second master's, he's an engineer, and he's making $200,000 when he was selling drugs, in his former life. But then he says, because of what you did with me, I'm going to send you my best fruit. His best fruit was his son. He sent his son. He says, I trust my son's life in your hand because of what you did with me. You taught me how to buy a pair of dress socks. You taught me how to wear a belt. And Brother Medley, if you want to see something that's unique, take a young man who has worn sneakers his entire life and put him on a nice pair of dress shoes and take him to a nice building where the floor is waxed. He cannot walk on it.
Right.
So to teach them how to walk in a dress shoe and to command respect and demand that in such a way that you're present. So they come back and say, thank you. I know when I go to dinner now, I know the beverage glass from the water glass. I know the dinner fork from the salad fork. I know how to signal to get the waiter. So I want to thank you for taking us out on those dinner dates to train us how to enjoy life, but do it the correct way. So when we model before them and we work with them and when we invest in them, it's an ROI. It's a return on investment. And we really have to get to that. So it's just amazing, Brother Medley. 2019, young man, well, prior to that, he was homeless. And he slept in the bathroom, but I didn't know that. And he would be the last student every Monday night from 5 to 8:30 in my course. He would wait to 8:25 exactly. He would have about 20 questions. And Brother Medley, I would say, just let me get me some bottled water. And Brother Medley, I would answer every question. I didn't know that he asked because he wanted to stay warm as long as he could so that he could sneak into the bathroom and sit on the toilet and put his feet up against the door.
Wow.
And that's how he slept. Didn't know that.
Wow.
But kept sharing in the class, if you do well and you earn great grades, revenue will come your way. He became a member of Phi Theta Kappa International Honor Society. He acquired a number of scholarships, and he got some refund money. And he came to my office and shared. I said, listen, you can take your funds. When he told me he was homeless, I said, let's go. Found an apartment, got an apartment, paid up the first 9 months of rent, earned his bachelor's degree, went on, earned the master's degree, earned 2, just purchased a house in Pennsylvania, married. This gentleman, African-American male, wanted to honor me. Brother Medley, he wrote to the city, got a citation. That wasn't good enough. Wrote to the governor, got a citation. That wasn't good enough. He found out that the White House had some honors where you can honor people. He wrote to the White House. I want you to realize he took the lit courses under me. The critical thinking, the writing. If what he had placed in print was not accepted, I wouldn't have received the honor.
Correct.
So this gentleman was so excited. He says, I owe you because you saved my life. You came into my life when you didn't know. And then, Brother Medley, I always had a basket. And I had 2 baskets. One had little snacks, fruit, and bottled water. The other basket had T-shirts, boxers, socks, and depending on the time of the year, either gloves, scarves, long johns, summer, more T-shirts. So I had that, and all they had to do was come in and take what they needed. He says, you always did things for us behind the closed doors, and you never told us, I did this for you.
Right.
You never said that. He said, so I had to get you an honor. And this is unique. The same student went to the institution where he earned his AA degree. He says, this professor has to be honored. I didn't know he had done it. They said no. That wasn't good enough for the student. So when we live and we work and we engage and we really make a positive change, can you imagine?
Right.
This student who was homeless.
Exactly.
An honor for me from the White House. So now, Brother Medley, I'm excited. Now, I can ask for $25,000 just to show up to say hi off that honor.
That's right.
That's what a student did.
That's right.
This is what we have to do. We have to teach. And he went from What's up? To good afternoon, Mr. Medley. How are you today? My name is. And brother, Mr. Medley, what is your teacher? What is your profession? What do you do for a living? He went from not having the vocation of being able to engage in a dialogue in a structural manner. Now he can do it, and he does it well. But because of the life that was presented in front of them, because of the sincerity and the engagement and the involvement, and I can tell you, at every graduation that my guys had, I made sure I was there, front row and center.
Absolutely.
Because that was important, because for many of them, they were the first, and their families didn't understand. Do you know there are some Black families who believe that if there's a graduation, they can't attend?
Correct.
So, and they wouldn't. So I was front row center, and as many students and my friends, I said, listen, you owe me a favor. I need for you all to get together and meet me at this graduation for my students. And when they call his name, we're going to scream the loudest, because he needs that insatiable desire, that motivation. He needs that passion. He needs to look out in the audience and say, you know what? I have a sea of supporters. And that's what we had to do. So just like you can recruit people back in the day to go to a party,
right?
I recruit people to go to graduation. This is one of the students that I've worked with, and he's coming through full force. He has a 399. So when they call his name for honors, we're going to scream the loudest. And I can tell you that makes a world of a difference. And so when these guys called me at midnight to listen, I know it's late, but I just wanted to say thank you for teaching me. Thank you for helping me. You took me to the bank and showed me how to open up a checking,
right,
how to use my debit card. So now I have a mini business portfolio, because I have some add-on CDs that you talk to us about, and now I'm sharing it with my friends and with my family. So, Brother Medley, when we do those things, the students come back, and the true test of an educator who's done an exceptional job, not only will the students complete the course and graduate, they'll go and they'll share with others, but they'll come back and they'll celebrate you with a thanks and a testimonial of how your life saved them. And Brother Medley, if we're in education, and for those who are listening, if we are in the field of education, we are in the business of saving lives.
Absolutely.
And when we realize that, this is why we understand that in this class, we're going to facilitate some major intense surgery. So that lesson plan you had, those tools for that surgery doesn't work. You have to throw those out. You need specialized tools. So you have to keep that eye open so that what you can do is secure the needed tools and to provide the students with the resources that they need, celebrate them, acknowledge them, nurture them, guide them. And when we do that, our students realize that, wow, you're more than a teacher to me.
Right.
You become family. You're the dad that I always wanted. And Brother Medley, I'm going to say this for educators. Many times in your classrooms, minority males would do this. They will act out purposely because they want you to call their name.
Correct.
And they want that attention. That's that father image support that they didn't get at home or in the community. And they know that you're going to walk up to them now, you know what? Now, why are you acting up today? But Melly, I was just playing. I just wanted you to come over and talk to me.
That's right.
And they'll do that. You're like, well, all you had to do was ask them that. Then he said, wait. He didn't know he had to ask. He didn't know that. So he asked in the best manner that he could. He had to do a little entertainment to get you to see him. And now that he knows you saw him, he's going to make sure you heard him.
That's
now
right.
that you saw him, you heard him, you're going to come talk to him. And
That's
then once
right.
you finish, you have nurtured, engaged. He said, Brother Medley, you just made my day. And then prior to COVID, our young men, they really wanted a hug. They really wanted a hug. They wanted you to hug them and say, you know what? I believe in you and make me proud. And when you tell them that, they'll go out in the community and they'll start off with some folk, and they say, no, I got to make Brother Medley proud. I can't do this, y'all. I cannot do this because I have to make him proud. He makes me proud every day when he comes to work and he recognizes me. So making him proud is I'm going to make the right decision. So we're going to hang out. I can't go take from the store. I can purchase from the store, but I can't take from the store. So since I don't have the revenue to do that, I'm going to leave you all alone because I have to make Brother Medley proud. And this is how they thank us, and they give us those great testimonies because guess what? The life that we live in front of the students.
Correct.
Is the only example that many of them will ever get. And so we have to change that narrative from the media, the newspaper, and what folk have said, children of color, students of color just don't make it. And then, Brother Medley, I got to say this, for all those educators out there, I need them to realize that coming October of this year, we've been talking about what's going on across this country. I need for them to know that October the 11th and 12th, 2021, we're having our Teacher Leadership Conference for Black and brown male educators. In fact, for those of you who are listening, Brother Medley will be facilitating a session. He just found out.
All right. Absolutely love it.
It's going to be a virtual conference. We have some outstanding speakers, but Brother Medley will be facilitating a wonderful session. And so for more information, Brother Medley, they can call 248-890-2894, or they can simply go to the website, and that is J for Joy, V for Victory, educational.org. And so what we're going to do is this, creating transitional pathways to recruit and retain Black and brown male educators. Because, Brother Medley, you and I have fewer years in front of us.
Correct.
Than what we have
behind us. I know that's right.
So we need some more. So we need these young men, Black and brown males, to come in and not just get into the academy and run out, but get them in and train them how to stay, to transition from teacher to mentor, to director, to coordinator, to principal, to superintendent, to impact change. But we have to do that. So we're really, really looking forward to that. And so, Brother Medley, all I can tell you is this. I have the best profession in the world, which is teaching. And I know that if nothing else, it's a gift from God that I'm a steward over. So I understand that it's a gift, and I'm a steward over the gift. So I celebrate, and I'm responsible for how I use that gift. And I use the gift to edify, to create, to motivate, and to help students see that you are a winner and you can do it. If, as you said, Brother Medley, you have to ask 25 times, but ask 50 times.
That's right.
And the problem is we just have to get them into asking. So
that's
Brother
correct.
Medley, exciting. Listen, I can't wait for part 2, but I'm just hoping that our audience who have listened this morning, that they have received some good information, and I'm hoping that it has caused them to take a look at the teacher in the mirror, the administrator in the mirror, and to say, what more?
Absolutely. And this is the thing. First off, absolutely honored and be, as they can say, and you come from the church background, happy glad to do the session in October. You just let me know what it is you want me to talk about, and we'll prepare something together. Either I'll put something together, but thank you. I'll be more than happy to be a facilitator at that session in October. But there is definitely going to be a part 2 and possibly a part 3 of this, because what we're talking about here, and again, for those of you in the listening audience, if you come from a particularly Black church background, you'll know when I say PK what I'm talking about. Yes. Brother Vance is a PK, but I've always seen education, as about as close to ministry as you get, or it is a type of ministry. Let's put it that way, because we have the spiritual side, which we take care of in the churches, but there's the side that we need to be able to survive here on this place we call Earth, which is the education piece. And you said so much that I know we got to do a part 2, because there's so many things in terms of when you talked about wearing shoes and socks and putting on a suit and So many of our boys, because they're in single parent homes, which is usually mom, don't know how to tie ties. We do a session in my school on how to tie a tie because they don't know how to tie ties. So, I mean, there's so many things that goes with education other than just the curriculum and the lesson plans and the yearly plans. There's so much more than that. And that's what people, to me, really don't get, because some would listen to what you said and say it don't take all that, when the truth of the matter is it takes all that and then some. Because we really are about transforming and changing lives. And any good teacher, any good principal, any good superintendent, the litmus test is how many lives did you impact? The fact that that student was in your presence for a school year, a school period, 12 years in your district or whatever, what did that child get out of that? That's where the rubber meets the road, because it's one thing. And that's why, just like I don't get with that comment about you're not college material, I really don't get into this. And I understand it to some degree whenever teachers have to pull that out the bag, but I don't particularly care for it. Is I got mine, get yours. Or whether you learn a lot, I'm still getting paid. That don't vibe well with me there, because no, I need this child's life to be changed because they were in your presence for whatever time they were in it. Because that's how I view me, that and I've had it, kind of sort of similar experiences, not to that degree like you've had, but I've had students come back the same way and thank and say, you never did play with us. You never did, or, we thought, you yelled at us or whatever, or way you said, but we knew you loved us and you were doing that. It was like if you were my dad or my mom or dad. So, yeah, it does take all that. Teaching is not just, oh, well, if I can't do anything else, I'll teach. No. When somebody, in all honesty, and it's going to sound bad, but when somebody tells that to me, I almost want to slap them. Like, what do you mean if I can't do anything else, I'll teach? So
this is first of all, it's a calling.
That's right.
You've been petitioned. It's a mission, and educators are held responsible. They're responsible, but they are accountable for the output. So when and on the spiritual side, I understand that with God, if I walk into a classroom, Brother Medley, be it 8 weeks, 12 weeks, or 15 weeks, I'm actually pastoring a group of students.
Correct.
To reach a goal. So for me, I take it serious. And I'll just say this, in our next conversation, I'll share my testimony of how I didn't walk and talk until I was 12.
Wow.
So for me to walk into a class, and I was one of those students who went to private school, and they told my parents, if I graduated, I wouldn't make it to college.
Wow.
So for me, it's real personal. As they say, this is a serious matter.
I know that's right.
Serious, because we really have to do this. And I want to say to all those educators, if you need an educational revival, at our next section, when Brother Medley schedule it, you will know. Come ready to get your academic souls fed. Come ready to be renewed, stirred up, and recharged. And we have to realize this sometimes, as that teacher, you need a mentor. You need someone to help you. And I'm going to be honest, you don't need a person who is equal to you. You need somebody a little bit more sharper.
Correct.
That can take you to the next level. And you need that engagement. Doesn't mean that you're less, but experiences provide you with extra resource skills and tools to reach and to do some other things. So some of your educators out there have had vast amount of experiences, so they can help you get to where you really need to be. And some of us need professional development 101. And Brother Medley, that's simply how to love your students so that you can teach them.
I know that's right.
Students have a chip in them, and I know they're close. There's a chip in minority students. They can walk into a classroom. They say, Brother Medley, you may yell, you may scream, and you may get in our face, but you love me. And they say, Brother Medley, you have us covered. You'll defend us.
Correct.
But Becky out there, you can say what you want to say. She don't like us. I walk in, she frowns.
That's correct.
Students can discern. They can discern.
Yes, they can. Yes.
When that happens, they close off.
That's exactly Right. And we are definitely going to get back together again. And for listening audience, again, what we're talking about is not just in the school, even though it's privy to the school for, in terms of education and educators, if you really want to get the best out of your student. But we are definitely going to continue this conversation because there's so much more for us to unpack and to help folks understand how this school thing works. For many of our students, school is their only safe haven. Those teachers, matter of fact, this pandemic really threw a lot of kids that couldn't come to buildings because that was their place. But we'll talk about that and then some other time. But this interview, Brother Dr. Vance has delivered everything that I promised because I told him it was going to be spirited. It was going to be informational. It was going to be fun. And, we were going to keep it moving. And we did just that. And I'm looking forward to getting you back on here again because what we're sharing, and that's why I wanted to have him on here after sitting through a couple of sessions with him last August as well as this year. I said, I got to have him on the show because I want that same energy. And I want folks to understand what this education thing is about. It's not about just a paycheck. It's not about, just like you said, we talked earlier in the beginning, many of us as teachers think it's about us. When the truth of the matter, no, it's not about us. Everything that we do ought to be about the students. So with that being said, listening artists, we ran a little bit over, not really, because I knew time was going to fly, and it did. So, Brother Vance, we definitely going to schedule another date to come back and do part 2 and part 3 if we need to.
Yes. I'm excited.
I am as well. So again, go back over the conference stuff again in October. Anything else that you want to promote over the next couple of minutes in terms of any websites, any of your businesses, how folks can get in touch with you, JV educational consultants, so forth and so on. I'll give you a chance to promote. I'm going to turn the mic off and you can promote. You could say anything with the exception of a dollar amount, but anything short of that, go for it.
Listen, thank you. Listen, audience, thank you so much for listening. You can reach us directly by our website, letter J for Joy, V for Victory, educational.org. Our office number is 248-890-2894. For teachers out there, it's not just for men. So for teachers, administrators, those who are desiring to grow in education, we're having our Teacher Leadership Conference. For Black and Brown males, it's a virtual conference. Those dates are October the 11th through the 12th, 2020. And we have a phenomenal theme this year, creating transitional pathways to recruit and retain Black and Brown male educators. And as you learned this morning, one of our renowned, phenomenal, great alpha speakers will be yours truly, Brother Marc Medley. He's going to bring the house up and down virtually. And if you're looking for support for parental health, how to select a school, diet, anything educationally, if you go to our website, and that is www.jsandjoy, you will see all the services that we offer. And if you click on our event tab, we have monthly webinars. So you don't have to be an educator or a teacher or a principal to participate in the webinar. So you can go to our website, and we would love to provide you with some educational resource support to help you empower yourself, your children, and to make sure that education is active, is ready, is vibrant, and is present in your home. So once again, I want to thank you all so much for listening. A special thanks to the world-renowned, wonderful, stellar, Oscar winner, Brother Marc Medley, for hosting a phenomenal show and for this great invitation. And I'm looking forward to sharing again with all of you wonderful listeners out there. So, Brother Medley, thank you, and I'm going to return the mic back to you.
Well, thank you. And listening audience, I archive these on my YouTube channel, and I blast it out to every social media site that I'm going to ask that you please, if you don't share any other one, share this. Once it gets up on the YouTube channel, please feel free to share it out on your social media sites, because this is a message that needs to be heard. Not just from educators, but from parents and students and everybody. So whenever it goes up later this weekend on my YouTube channel, please share it out. I advertised the fact that Dr. Vance was going to be on with me, in advance this past week. But when it comes up on the archive, please take a listen to it again and share it with somebody else. All right, this is another each one, teach one moment. All right, share the archive whenever it comes out. Be looking for it. If you don't know where it is, it's on my YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and put in my name, Marc, M-A-R-C, Medley, M-E-D-L-E-Y, it'll take you there. Otherwise, you can go to my website, and that gives you access to all of my social media. That's marcamedley.com. All right. But we can talk more about that later. But thank you for speaking all those award-winning Oscars so far into existence, man. I love it. But in any event, Dr. Vance is talking this is beyond good stuff. This is practical, it's real, and it is what we are going to need if we are going to transform our students' lives. Now, we focus predominantly on African-American males, but it works regardless of race, color, gender, so forth and so on. But this is where part of part 2 and part 3 is going to come in, is when we start talking about, if we don't do this for our African-American males and our African-American students, if we don't do this, what are the consequences and ramifications? That's going to be part of part 2 as well, that if we don't do what we've been talking about this morning, what's going to happen with our boys and our race futuristically. With that being said, I'm going to close out. Thank you, my good brother. We will be in touch.
Listen, thank you. Have a great rest of the day.
You do the same.
Okay.
All right. Take care.